What's up, guys? If you're interested in hanging out and chatting with me while I grab footage that you'll likely see in future videos, head on over to my Twitch channel linked in the description below, where we can talk all things COD, gaming, whatever life throws at us. Hope to see you there, but let's get back into the content at hand. As we round into the final week of Season 4 in the next few days here, I wanted to do something that I don't think that I've quite done here personally on the channel, and that's talk about the entirety of Season 4. I want to do so because, as it stands, we're looking like what we've got is it for Season 4. I'm not expecting anything major to happen as of next Tuesday, a major content launch, so I think this pretty much has the entire picture painted here for us, minus maybe, say, one corner or one piece of the puzzle that, even without it, it's not complete, but you know what's going to happen. But for the first time in a while with this game, between the highs of launch, then slightly fading off, but then leading into the high of a Warzone launch, my personal interest has been fading a little bit over the course of the last few weeks or so. As such, I'm incredibly looking forward to Season 5 and with hopeful anticipation that it'll be doing something much more than Season 4, given how much potential there was for it and how much there is currently going forward with Season 5. But as we wait, I want to recall my thoughts here a little and give you a sort of overall review, at least from my perspective. So as we go along, let me know your thoughts down below, what you thought of Season 4 thus far, and perhaps as a whole, whether you love it, hate it, or excited for the next season, whatever it is, feel free to elaborate. As well, if you are new to the channel, feel free to hit the subscribe button as well to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare, Warzone, and Season 5 as we round into it on a daily basis. But anyways, let's start with some of the basics, the content, the facts that we have, and then start the review on the good and work our way into a little bit of the bad. When you look at the content overall for Season 4 and you take a look at that first initial roadmap that we ended up getting, it looks like we actually have quite a bit. And truth be told, there is. But as we'll talk about later on in the video here, the problem is that we didn't really get that spread out. We had a bunch of it dropped all at once, but then a lot of dead time in between. But for the content, we ended up seeing 3 new multiplayer maps, 4 new weapons, 3 new operators, new features in the way of weapon mastery challenges and intel drops for Warzone, a bunch of new game modes, new features in Warzone like new supply run contracts and the contraband contract, new gulag weaponry and ground loot spawn. But taking a look at these things a little bit more on an individual basis, the 3 new maps of Scrapyard, Trench, and Barricade Promenade, and later on Cheshire Park, I didn't really have too much of an issue with. Scrapyard, I feel like doesn't play exactly how we remember it in the classic format, and that's okay to an extent, but it just hasn't really connected with me as much. I know that whenever it launched, it had a bunch of issues with people spawning outside of the map, so of course that created initial issues, but a lot of the people that I talked to enjoy that map overall, and truthfully, I don't really have any problems with it. Trench, again, another one that I think is a solid map. I really liked whenever it first launched that it had that mosh pit of different game modes where it wasn't just traditional 2v2. You had respawns and a little bit more high action gameplay going along with it. I honestly thought that was really cool. The Easter egg on that was really fun to figure out. It was nice to see also some clips of people using that in game, baiting players in there and then having the minigun from the AI just absolutely shred them apart. That was always funny. Barricade Promenade is one of those maps that's hit or miss for me, and I really think it depends on the team you have whenever you play with it. It's a very, very narrow and back and forth tug of war style map, and that to an extent is pretty cool, but it's also something that it doesn't offer very much range of gameplay. You're either stomping or you're getting stomped. Very few games that I've played out of the last month and a half here since its introduction have I had games where it's actually a tug of war back and forth. It's usually just spawn traps at one end or the other. In some regard, I'm not a huge fan of some of the lines of sight. I definitely remember whenever it first launched that I was like, why do I keep spawning in this alley with absolutely no cover? Meanwhile, there's a sniper looking at that spawn point. So that kind of stuff was a little annoying, but overall I've warmed up to it. But again, it's just a very back and forth. Cheshire Park, though, is one that I think is my favorite of the 4 that we've seen so far this season. And that's totally fine if you disagree, but this one, having played a lot of Search as of recently, I think this plays phenomenally on Search, and overall, just the flow of it is definitely nice, I think. While I play a lot more Warzone as of late and MP's kind of taken the back seat, Cheshire Park and my experiences on there, especially as of late, have maybe actually really interested in MP again. For the weaponry, we saw the CR56 AMAX, the Fennec, the Kali sticks, and then the Rytec AMR later on down the line. All of these I think are decent. Of course, all of them having their own specific attributes that make them good in some way or another. The CR56 pre-patch actually was one that I thought was going to be a contender for the main meta weapon, or at least one of the top 3 main meta weapons, but it's kind of gotten a little bit of a nerf here since that mid-season update and hasn't really quite been what it was at its launch. 3 new operators of Price, Gaz, and Rose. Those are all really just cosmetic. I don't care too much for them. Price obviously coming with the Battle Pass, Gaz and Rose coming for $20 in the shop or 2,400 COD points. But Gaz, the thing that I really liked about his introduction was that it came with multiple missions that you could complete for upwards of 3 skins for the same price as if you paid for just that simple first one. Rose, I thought, was going to carry on the mantle of that and keep that going, but we didn't see any missions introduced here with that, unfortunately. I'd love to see that sort of thing continue on, though, in the future, offering up more content for players just for the simple access of it. New features like weapon mastery challenges were cool. Intel drops for the Warzone backstory were very cool. There are a bunch of new game modes: All or Nothing, One in the Chamber, Team Defender, BR200, Juggernaut Royale, BR Realism, Warzone Rumble. Those were all cool. I loved BR200 and Juggernaut Royale the most. Of course, on the Warzone side of things, you also had new things like the new supply run contract, the new contraband contract, both of which were really cool, offering up new dynamics and also offering up unique rewards. A Gulag weaponry change was made. We'll talk about that in just a second. Ground loot spawn was honestly, I think, a nice addition here with this. The current set that we have of loot spawns on the ground and in chests right now, I'm a pretty decent fan of. And of course, again, those intel missions offering up a little bit more in that backstory is always cool. So overall, the content itself, I don't really have too much an issue with. And honestly, I liked a large majority of it. I thought that the content itself was pretty solid. The only thing, though, that comes down to what I have issue with and what I have had issue with here is, again, we only saw 2 drops within this entire season. There's a lot of content and it's a loaded drop that we get each time, but we only had 2. One at the very beginning, then right before the midpoint. Everything else was just kind of there, I guess. This season felt like there was a ton of downtime, especially since the mid-season update, which was actually before the true midpoint of the season, so we had a larger second half, or I guess a more long-winded second half where there wasn't as much, but more time to kill. That lack thereof of updates was kind of a bummer here because we saw multiple across different seasons, but this one, not so much. The stuff that was maybe the longevity things of Season 4, like your new Mastery challenges, like your intel missions, were cool, but they didn't quite hit the nail on the head if you ask me. Things like your Mastery challenges are great, but the rewards themselves aren't all that great. I'm a little jaded on the feel of how Obsidian actually looks, but that at least gave you something a little bit more visible for the grind, something you could apply to everything. Calling cards, though, for me, they don't really do much after, again, a hefty challenge here for each of those calling cards you have to get. That's just me. Intel missions, though, another thing that kind of served to bridge the gap between major updates and going week over week, or I guess every other week over every other week. Those things were cool to learn about the Warzone backstory and stuff, but for a vast number of players, they've been bugged. Mine being bugged since the second introduction here, either in week 2 or week 3, I forget which one it was actually introduced within, but those have been bugged for quite some time for a lot of players, maybe even yourself included. Officer challenges this season were a little hit or miss. There are definitely ones that, as always, there are definitely those ones that you can breeze through without even paying any attention to. You just play the game and you complete them, but there's still a bunch that are very tedious. The ones in particular are those Warzone ones that I'm sure a lot of people aren't too fond of either. I'm still completing them and I still find them tedious, and I play Warzone every day. They definitely task you with going out of your way in Warzone, but if you're not somebody that plays Warzone all the time, it's even more out of your way to do, which is unfortunate. I thought it would be really cool to include these and kind of bring everything in together, but having seen the execution of it now over the course of the entire season, it's not my favorite. So maybe next season is a little bit better, maybe not. But one also thing that this is totally unrelated to just Season 4. One thing that I thought about a lot this season is that with officer challenges in general, why is it that we only get XP? I mean, you're more than likely not going to finish that challenge that you unlock that exact level you're at. So that XP yield is probably useless to a large number of those challenges you end up completing. I've been 155 for weeks now, and it's something that every single challenge I complete, I don't really get anything. That's still something that kind of perplexes me here, even though we are 9 months into the game. So that's unrelated, but something I want to throw out there. The big thing to me, though, this season was that Season 4 at the time looked to be a huge undertaking. It looked to be this huge season for COD and Warzone in particular. Maybe that was us as a community getting our hopes up, but at the time, pre-Season 4, all signs seemed to point towards something large, especially in the Warzone side of things, because we had things right before Season 4, like the Bunker 11 Easter egg just getting solved. That was about a week or 2 before the actual launch of Season 4. People figured that that would open up and be elaborated upon further, since you could finally get inside that bunker, which you couldn't for the past 2 months before that. Instead, we actually got the key cards taken away in Season 4. Other bunkers had new content built into them with Season 4's launch, including one by the southern park of Verdansk that actually had an underground bunker with a missile silo in it. Again, seemingly progressing that Easter egg further, but instead nothing came of that throughout the entire season. Other things like shacks were opened up at the end of Season 3 as well, with teases that many thought were referencing COD 2020. The one that I always think of is that shack out by prison where it had the chassis of an RCXD. Instead of any sort of reveal that maybe we thought was going to come of that with Season 4, we actually got those areas closed off. So pre-Season 4, it seemed like there was this huge buildup, something massive was going to be approaching, and then just nothing happened. It sort of dropped off, tapered off, or just completely plateaued, however you want to think of it. And so that was, I think, one of the big things that maybe pushed me away and jaded me a little bit with this season, is that it seemed like so much was going to happen, but nothing really did. So here's the hoping that Season 5 isn't that same way, because in the game files, we have so much stuff for Season 5, it looks like. It seems like those Easter eggs are finally going to be built upon. We're finally going to see stuff actually added in and adjusted within Warzone, such as a new potential point of interest with Stadium possibly opening, if all things like we've seen in the teasers end up happening in that loot train. That's something that is also something that I thought was kind of a buzzkill here with Season 4, is that we had these train tracks added in, but that was the only thing we saw added in or really changed in the map and the landscape of Warzone as well, minus a few goat trails, which sure were good additions, but they didn't really change the functional gameplay of Warzone. So with these things potentially teasing and maybe even revealing COD 2020, with these things opening up new areas of play in Warzone, I am hopeful that Season 5 does bring along with it a lot of cool surprises, a lot of goodies, but for the time being, Season 4, we have a week left, and it's kind of gone quietly into that good night. So for that reasoning, it's something that I don't think Season 4 is exactly what we anticipated, exactly what we imagined, but in a sense, yes, the content was good, but overall, I don't know, I'm a positive person, but I was a little disappointed here with Season 4. It just didn't seem to keep interest or attempt to keep interest in the players over that span. Again, as of today, it'll be 23 days since our last update for Modern Warfare in the season, but as the time of launch of the next season, it'll be over a month at that point since the last update. So that is a very long period of time where the only things we're getting are some playlists, which once you play once or twice, you know everything about that playlist. It's not really anything that will keep your interest a whole ton, at least if you ask me. But anyways, that's my thoughts here on Season 4. I'm very much so looking forward to Season 5. I'm still loving the game, sure, but right now I'm just kind of like hit or miss with if I want to jump on and play. I don't need to, I don't feel compelled to, although I still am having a great time streaming with my friends, so that's keeping me on a regular basis. But anyways, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. That's my thoughts here. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about Season 4 here? Again, love it, hate it, anything in between, let me know. But hopefully enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below, and of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare. Updates, news, information, tips, tricks, and of course, Season 5 content on a daily basis. If you're interested, hit that subscribe button. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Probably live on both those. If you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.